Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are joined by Larry Pon, CPA, and you can find him at LARRYPONCPA.com. Now, Larry Pon has a tax and financial planning practice in Redwood Shores, California. This is his 34th tax season, and he has helped hundreds of people reach their financial goals through smart tax and financial planning. And Larry regularly speaks to groups about tax and financial planning topics. And today, he is going to help us to get our money right, get our mindset right, make it fun, keep it interesting. So Larry, glad to be talking to you.
Well, good to talk to you, Robert.
So as we kind of get started here, I feel like maybe 10, 15 years ago, whenever this topic of money came up, I felt like a person that was dreading going to the doctor. I really resented what how bad the money situation might be, or what problems I might be missing out on. And then whenever I visited my CPA to deal with issues with my business, or could I be using these loopholes or reducing taxes here and there, I always felt stupid, and I felt afraid to ask some questions. And at the same time, my eyes kind of glazed over whenever we dug too deep into the tax money stuff. So is this a problem that you see coming across your desk when you're helping people with their tax and financial situation? Just this whole resistance, this problem even thinking about money?
Well, I think it depends on who you're talking about. So there are some clients, I don't know why they do it. They schedule their dental appointment before they see me. And then, their face is swelled up, they're drooling and all that. So why do you have to get your teeth drilled before you see me? He goes, well, Larry, that experience is actually easier than yours. Oh, come on. That's I'm not that bad. I smile, I have candy, I have snacks here for people. But I think it's fear. I think fear is what people are afraid of. A lot of times I get a stack of unopened envelopes. People don't open their envelopes. They don't want to read their statements. They don't want to see their tax documents. Or worst of all, I see a stack of letters from the IRS or from the state. And I tell them that, I should see that during the course of the year so I can help you. And it's a lot less stressful if I know things ahead of time, and we can forestall any negative things from happening. It's like anything else in life. For example, your car, if you take good care of your car, you change the oil, get it tuned up, it's generally not going to give you any trouble. But I knew someone for 10 years, she never changed her oil, and then she couldn't figure out why her engine blew up. And that was a lot more expensive than changing the oil every few thousand miles. So same thing with my job. I am like a financial doctor. Actually, I am a money doctor. It's one of my job titles. I'm a money doctor. And very similar to a medical doctor's job, it's a team effort. We work together on it. I can't help you if you keep smoking. I can't help you if you're not eating right or exercising. Same thing with financial habits. If you have good financial habits, I can be very helpful. But if you can't break those financial habits, I will refer them to someone else. Like I have financial psychologists help me with people with their money relationship problems.
And I find that really interesting so first of all, you're saying that it's important for us to maybe get ahead of these problems that are coming our way, and throughout the year, make sure that everything's working as it should. So that way we can maybe take preventative measures before we're on death's door, so to speak, in a financial sense. But then I'm hearing you say a lot of how habits are really important, and thinking about things in a certain way is important. And so to help us to get an idea of this, can you tell us what's the typical person, or the type of person that you enjoy helping most? Are we talking about individual tax returns, or businesses, or what kind of person are we talking about as far as you helping this person solving the problems?
My favorite client, just like any other client for any other professional, is someone who follows your advice. Those are my favorite clients, because I can't help them if they keep doing the wrong things, like running up debt, spending more than they make, not contributing to their 401k plan, overpaying for a car, overpaying for a house. So my favorite clients are the ones who call me and we talk before they do something big, like they're about to buy a house or they're about to make an investment. And we talk about the choice A, B, and C, or they want to select a new investment advisor, I will check them out. Or if a client already has an investment advisor, I always say, let me talk to that person, because in 5 minutes, I'll know if that person's a keeper or not. And I'm always looking for fellow team members that are looking for our clients' best interest to help them reach their goals.
Well, great. And this is interesting. And this is like some of these things that you're describing here are things that it seems like we all need to know about our CPAs, because I feel like I'm bothering the person if I am calling them throughout the year, and I feel like I should keep it all in a document and wait until a couple of weeks before tax time and just give it to them all at once. But you're saying that it's actually better to touch base and say, I'm thinking about hiring this financial planner. Can you have a conversation with them? I'm thinking about making this large purchase or making this big life decision. And you would prefer it if people run that by you ahead of time, even though it might be touching base with you again and again throughout the year.
And that is preferred because we're not as busy during the off season. We might be on vacation or something like that, but we can always schedule a time. But my longtime clients and my staff tell my clients that if you want to make Larry grumpy, surprise him. So I don't like surprises. I don't like stress. So my longtime clients always know to consult me if they're about to make a big decision or they want my advice on something. And that's what I do. And for my clients, if they're calling me with a question, they don't have to worry about me sending them a little bill if it's a little question. I will send them a bill if I need to do some analysis or some really complex calculations. So, and they expect that, but they don't need to worry about, oh, he's going to ding me for a 5-minute question or something like that. So that should never ever be a concern.
And that is good to know. So you're not using lawyer rules. If there's a quick 30-second conversation, you don't bill the half hour or the whole hour. Little things are okay, but then if you go and do that deep dive analysis, then that costs a little bit of money. And you've mentioned a few times here about how some of your clients come to you and they have unopened bills. They don't even want to look at the problem. The problem is there, but they're afraid to even know what's happening. And then you look at people who seem to have the money thing figured out. They really seem to enjoy it. It's almost like, and I don't know if you've seen this or if you can help me put this into words a little better, but it seems like when people are doing really well with their money, when it's working for them, when they're growing it, they almost treat it like a magical beast, right? They respect it. It's like something that kind of works on its own. And have you seen any of this, or can you kind of unpack this, or is this making any sense here as far as kind of like treating money as a living thing, as a thing that you need to kind of cultivate and care for? Is that making any sense at all?
Well, I treat money like a garden. It's like a garden, and if you don't take care of it, because really unkempt. And I love using the garden analogy because people have a lot of weeds, people have a lot of pests, and but like a garden, you don't trim it every day, but you look at it every so often. But you got to take care of it. You got to manage it. And I've done this long enough where I learn. I keep learning. I'm still learning. I'm constantly learning. But one thing I've learned is when I work with clients, that there's a long list of things they got to do. I learned that if I give them this long list of things, nothing happens. So we take a look at 2 things, 3 things, tiny habits. We take a look at small things. So small things make the biggest impact, and it causes satisfaction. When you have satisfaction, it makes it easier to move on to the next task. And so, we have clients, if they're younger clients, they've got student loans to deal with. Well, we'll take a look at that situation. We've got clients who are parents with kids going to college. Let's figure out how to avoid those student loans, or how the best way to buy a house. A lot of people got in trouble during the financial crisis because they well, they didn't talk to me, but they bought houses they couldn't afford, and that's what got them into trouble.
Okay, so there are these habits that we need to maybe start applying, and you're making me think back to maybe when I was in my early 20s and I had to go to that CPA every year. It was really rough. I was afraid to tell him things. He would get really frustrated with me, but it seemed like every year it got a little better, and I began having a little bit of a checklist for myself. I began looking at last year's tax return and saying, okay, here's the documents I need, or here's the thing that didn't go so right. And every year I felt like the template became a little more refined. And then every time I visited him, he would maybe educate me a little bit more about, well, here's this with your business entities, and here's this with these tax forms. And it felt like he was doing a little bit of what you're saying there, was where instead of dumping a big to-do list on me, or instead of giving me, like, saying, read these 10 books, he just kind of slowly every year eased me more into these things that I need to know, realizing that every year there'll be new tax laws, new things that will change. And then also, he's the guy that really has the expertise. But again, going back to maybe that doctor analogy where we started, is like, the doctor is that expert, but it does help if you know a few of these medical terms, or a few things about yourself, or maybe if you have, say, diabetes or high blood pressure, know enough so that way you can have that conversation with that expert. And so, as far as these tiny habits you're talking about, as far as tending to the garden, is there anything that you think that we should be aware of, as far as the low-hanging fruit, pun intended, as far as the things that we maybe should keep an eye on, or the things that maybe a lot of people seem to get wrong when it comes to their money and their taxes and dealing with their CPA? Anything like that come to mind as far as like easy wins today?
I think what's important is the government just recently issued new W-4s to compute your withholding. So this time of the year, we're doing our taxes. Oh dear, we owe, or we have a large refund, or whatever. We need to review our withholding so that we can put ourselves on track this year, so that we're not going to owe a large amount next year unexpectedly, or have too large of a refund, to try to get your taxes under control. So if you're a salaried worker, review your withholding. I think that's the most important thing to do. The second thing, if you're a salaried worker, is to take full advantage of your employee benefits, the 401k plan, 403b plan, the flexible spending accounts, the medical reimbursements, daycare reimbursements, all those sorts of expenses. So we got to make sure we have those in place. Those are low-hanging fruit. A lot of our employers have matching on their 401k plans. There's no matching if you're not putting any money into it. So you got to take advantage of that. That's quote unquote free money. We have to take advantage of that.
And you're listing a lot of things that I wish I'd paid more attention to. Again, like in my early 20s, when I figured things would work out eventually. I figured out I would live forever. I figured that there was always time later to make more money. And now that I'm a little more mature, now that I'm in mid 30s, now the things that you're listing there excite me quite a bit more than they used to, as far as like, ooh, well, like, I should have been maxing out that 401k. That way you can take advantage of all that free money, or doing some of these extreme things and seeing, like, what little things could I take advantage of that might add up to a lot, right? Reimburse this, reimburse that for the daycare, that all might, add up to paying off the house early, or paying off the vacation early. And so, it's one thing to list some ideas for people, which is great, but what also might motivate people quite a bit more is to unpack maybe a client story, or some kind of like success story where someone came to you and things were a real mess, and you worked your magic and you really changed things in someone's life. So does anything like that come to mind, as far as someone that you helped by working your money magic here?
Well, we always take a look at the full picture. I don't look just at the taxes. I look at the entire financial picture. It depends what's going on with their life. Now, there's someone who's having a baby. Well, I'm telling them, well, guess what? There's a new tax law change for people having a baby this year, starting in 2020. Oh man, we need to get the nursery set up. We need to figure out the daycare. We need to figure out preschool and college and all those sorts of things. Well, there's one new change in the tax law that allows you to take up to $5,000 out of your retirement account, even though you're not 59 and a half yet, without any penalty. And that's per parent. So that's 5 plus 5, that's $10,000. So there's a source of money you can draw on. Normally you would have to pay a penalty on that. So that's one possibility. Now, in terms of a client win success story, it's a bit complicated, but but I recently did a case study for a financial planning group on a real estate case study. This client had a rental property in San Francisco. They were going to sell it. They're going to owe a boatload of taxes. But I figured out how they can save almost $800,000 in taxes and increase their cash flow by $80,000. So with planning, that's possible. Now, if I didn't catch them before the sale, they would have been stuck with that situation where they would have to give the IRS and the state $800,000, and there's nothing I can do about it. So it's important to work proactively and to work in partnership with the client and the other professionals, the real estate people, the lawyers, and the financial advisors, and it's a team approach, and it's a lot more fun that way.
It sounds like it. And especially if like you have this lifetime worth of expertise, like we said, you're in your 34th tax season. So it's easy for people to let your ego get in the way, right? It's easy to say, oh, well, I'll do this myself. I'll look up all the things I need to know about this real estate deal. But I mean, you look for, or you notice the things that some of us might not notice. And it's easy to fall into that trap of saying, well, I'll save a little bit of money by not going through the CPA to look at this. And it's like, yeah, but would you have saved yourself $800,000, or would you have saved yourself the $80,000 in cash flow? Probably not. So sometimes that little bit of money to talk to the expert can really pay off quite a bit. And also from your advice here, it seems like there's the value in maybe staying on top of these latest changes, and then maybe using that wonderful tool called Google, so that way we kind of know what information to bring our own CPA. Because I don't know if you've come across this, but it gets frustrating sometimes when me as a layperson, I ask things of a CPA or financial person, and they're really afraid to go too much into detail, right? Because things change or things might be different state to state, but it helps in, especially what the things that you're saying here, to maybe look into this, right? To look into this, pulling out the 5K per parent out of the retirement account, or to look into, this specific change in the tax code or this specific form. That way we can maybe do a little bit of Google research and then bring that information to our CPA, and then maybe we can point them in the right direction. I like some of this mindset you have as far as these tiny habits.
Well, also, when you're talking about Google search, be very, very, very careful, because I have clients who bring up these articles, and a lot of them are from blogs, and a lot of blogs are conjecture. So if you're bring it from legitimate sources, such as Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Market Watch. Where do you have New York Times? Where do you have articles that have been fact checked? So you gotta be careful. You gotta be fair what you're. And sometimes you have to distinguish between an opinion piece versus a news article. So I read a lot of opinion pieces and a lot of conjecture, and that's the fun thing about what we do. We don't have to agree with each other. So various professionals have varying opinions on different strategies and techniques, and some are biased in certain ways. You have to consider the source of where it's coming from. If it's coming from an insurance salesperson, what's his answer? Oh, you got to buy insurance. If it's from an investment manager, what's his advice? Well, you got to give me your money to manage. So it depends on where the source is coming from. So if you're getting an unbiased source, someone like me, who I'm not compensated if you buy a product or not, or make a financial move, doesn't matter to me. If you follow my advice, that's great. If you don't follow it, I still get paid. So I consider where the source of information is coming from.
Right. And I agree completely that to some people, everything looks like a nail if you're a hammer, right? If they're trying to sell this, if the end goal is you buy this insurance, you buy this service, then some of the blogs are written in that way, where they're a logical argument ends where the only possible course of action is to buy this thing from me. And that's great. But in this day and age, especially with the overload of information we have from blogs and social media and everything else, we need to maybe see the research, or see that new information we get as a lead, to then go and compare other sources of information and make sure that, well, that maybe was the starting point for me to look this up, but then let me make sure that multiple legitimate sources, like you said, like a Forbes or Wall Street Journal, backs that up, and it's not just some fringe brand new person in their basement writing some silly blog article. It's backed up by multiple people. And so, yeah, and I think that kind of being good at research is probably a good skill in general in this day and age moving forward, just because we have to maybe solve some of our own problems, or at least get a starting point and then know what specific questions we're taking to that expert. And I want to make sure that we cover maybe even some of the simple questions that people might have. And I see that in some of the things that you help people out with is helping people or giving advice about forming a new business entity. And I know that this is the kind of thing where there are a couple different answers. And then also some people want to avoid this question as late as possible, right? They say, well, I want to make the money first, or I want to do this or that before setting up my business entity. So what's your advice there? If someone says, I'm starting a new business and I've done a little bit of that research, but I get conflicting information as far as forming a business entity, what do people need to know starting out?
And that's a very good question. And there's a lot of analysis we need to do to figure out what's the right business entity for you. There's legal reasons, business reasons, tax reasons, and just business operations reasons of choosing the appropriate entity. So there's no real answer there. But again, if you're talking to a lawyer is going to give you an answer that's going to give them the best revenue source. If you're talking to even another accountant, and their accountants, this accounting firm makes money administering these entities, naturally they're going to steer you towards an entity that may or may not be appropriate for you. So I think what's important is to understand, I always ask the client, what do you need? What do you plan on doing? Do you plan on hiring people? And also, what are the state laws? Every state has a different set of rules. And what's going to cost you to have this entity? And so those considerations all come to play. So it's not an easy answer where everybody gets the same answer.
Okay, fair enough. But in the answer that you gave, it seems like it's helpful for us to maybe figure out a strategy or a plan going in, and then maybe they can bring that plan to you. And then also it seems like it's important to at least know some of the questions, right? Because if someone comes to you and just says, I'm starting a business, now what you're saying, maybe figure out what are the specific questions or what are the specific like bullet points, details to bring to you, and that way things can go a lot more smoothly. That way the logic isn't flowing in all these different directions. Someone says, well, here are the 5 things to tell you about what state it is in, or what industry, or what laws, or what employees I'm hiring, and then from there it can be a more focused answer as opposed to just guessing, it seems like.
That's right. And the mistake a lot of people make is the first step they go to is a lawyer. And sometimes they pick the wrong kind of lawyer. I've seen clients that went to a very famous national high-priced law firm and spent thousands of dollars for a complex stock agreement, incorporating in Delaware. And they spent thousands of dollars. It's like, you haven't made any money yet. And you just got this Cadillac corporate plan, but I'm not sure that's what you need. You probably didn't need that. So we have to balance that out. So I have an example. I have a story. One of my clients decided to be a commercial fisherman. It was just him in a boat catching fish, and for him, he was only going to make a few $1,000s a year to keep his costs down. We said, you don't need to be an entity. Let's just be a sole proprietor. Keep it simple. Tony's Seafood. Let's keep it simple. So, because if we were to be a corporation, we'd have to do corporate paperwork. And in California, you got some California extra fees to pay. And I know Tony. Tony's not going to follow any of that paperwork. And he's not going to pay for all those extra costs of hiring a payroll service and keeping minutes and all those sorts of things. So, whatever works for you.
Well, great, and that just drives the point home that it helps to talk to that expert, and I see that all the time in my own area where someone says, well, I want to have a website that does this, and they want it to be the most Mac Daddy Cadillac website you've ever seen. They want to have all the bells and whistles, and you look at that and you wonder, well, why is that? Did someone tell you that you wanted to have that specific thing, and that's why you got so excited about it that you had to have that feature? Sort of like how you're saying that maybe they have to have it, stock certificates because someone told them to. They have to be incorporated in Delaware because someone told them to. Well, is that always necessary, or are you just, are you just pursuing that arbitrary feature because you got that dead set in your mind. So these are all maybe things that could be a little painful, but beneficial to all of us in the end, as far as rethinking our tiny money habits and understanding that we should bring problems or bring decisions or questions to our CPAs early, especially when they're not on that busy season. That way, they're not dealing with us when they have a million other things going on. And it helps us to do a little bit of research on our own. That way we know what the kind of more detailed, educated question is that we're bringing to the CPA, and we can explain the situation, but then also not completely trying to do it ourselves. And I want to make sure that we promote you, and want to make sure that everyone knows about your skills and the services that you provide. So can you tell us about, if someone says, listen to this podcast episode and I want to take the next step, I want to contact Larry, what sorts of problems can you solve for people, and how would someone know if they're an ideal candidate to be speaking to you in the near future?
Well, what I normally do is I schedule a short phone call just to understand what their situation is. So if they want to consult with me, we'll have a short phone call, and in that call, I want to understand what their problems are, what they need, and I'll tell them what I need to be able to help them. And then after that, we'll schedule another time to talk some more about their specific tax planning, do some number crunching, review some documents, and go from there. So I am looking to help people who want to improve their financial situation. That's where I can be helpful. And my specialty is the area of tax. Um, a lot of my clients work for these tech companies who get restricted stock. There's a lot of interesting things we can do with their job situation from a tax and financial planning standpoint. I love small business owners, and my favorite clients are the charitable clients who want to do charitable planning, charitable giving. There's a lot of fun things we can do with that, and I really enjoy that because those people like to help the world, and I like those kind of people. So I like people who want to make the world a better place. And that's what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for someone that all I want you to do is cut my taxes and cheat the government, sorry, you're not the right one for me. I can't help them.
Okay, fair enough. So it helps if it helps if all of us kind of have that external cause, that thing that we want to do to change the world. That way we can feel good. That way we can have that driving force, and it's not just about raking in the big bucks and buying yacht number 12 or Ferrari number 15. You're looking for people that maybe need help figuring out that weird stock that came with the job, or need help just figuring out how to make a difference in life. And so this is all fantastic. And so if you out there in podcast land feel overwhelmed about your money situation, if Larry struck a little bit of a chord as far as you having those letters from the Secretary of State or from the federal government, all those unopened letters that you're just afraid to look at, things don't have to be this bad. You can talk to a seasoned expert. You can have a quick conversation and just figure out what your problems are. And this can be if you're looking to untangle your money situation, if you're unhappy with your current CPA, or looking to make a change to improve your financial situation, then Larry Pond is your guy to talk to. And LarryPondCPA.com is the place to go. And once they go there, Larry, when they go to LarryPondCPA.com, is there an easy way for them to find that phone number to call you and schedule that phone meeting or contact form? Is that all easily accessible?
Yeah, there's a contact link. There's click on that and it says request appointment.
Fantastic. So LarryPondCPA.com, request appointment. It can't hurt to have that quick conversation, and you will probably feel better about yourself because you're working proactively. You're not just reacting to the things that are happening. You're getting ahead of whatever future situation might come, because for all of us, there's always something on the horizon, right? There's always some kind of emergency disaster that might be coming in a year, 2 years, 3 years. So why not get ahead of it? Why not get your money right? Why not plan for the future, whether you have a baby coming, whether you're starting a business, making a life change, looking to save for retirement? We all have those things we need to do, and Larry can and will help you. The place to go is LarryPondCPA.com. Any final parting words to throw in here, Larry, before we wrap up, wind down?
Well, thank you for your time. This has been a lot of fun. Just to point out that I'm a fee-only advisor, which means I don't sell any products. So I'm not biased by any product sales or product recommendations. So I'm not biased by that at all. All you're getting from me is what you see is what you get. You're getting my advice, you're getting my opinions. And I can be opinionated sometimes, but at least I'm not biased by a sale or an outcome of a transaction.
Well, fantastic. Well, that is good to know. And so we'll see everyone at larrypondcpa.com. And thanks, Larry, for stopping by and helping us out today.
Well, thank you very much. Take care.